Good afternoon, Facebook. We pray. You might want to go ahead and get it on yours. We pray that everyone is having a blessed day today. To everyone that's walking in the truth, we say Shabbat Shalom to you today. For those who don't not really familiar with Hebrew, that means Happy Sabbath this morning and this afternoon. And we just thank each and every one of you for being with us today. We want to thank those in advance that were with us on last Saturday. And we pray that you had an opportunity to study those things throughout this week. For those who are tuning in with us the first time today, we're going to give a quick review because we got a lot of information that we got to give in, and we kind of went a little long last week, and so we want to make sure that we don't do that. So we're gonna give a quick review, but I really advise for you to be able to fully receive what we're talking about here today. It's going to be vital that you take down everything that we give you, but go back and watch the first video in its entirety. All right. Now, as I said, we don't have a lot of time. We want to make sure that we do not weigh your patience today. So we're going to just go right into this, and we're going to open with the opening stages of what we've been talking about from the beginning. We, at Better Day Ministry, thought that we needed to explore this whole idea of black history. Okay? We just throughout this whole time in this country, we've always been addressed as being black. And when you do your research, we are the only people in the history of the civilization who are labeled by the color of their skin. Okay? There is no person in the history, no culture, no nation or anything in the history of the civilization of this country which is labeled by the color of their skin. And so we always wanted to know, what does that mean? Why are we the only ones that are called black? Where you can find someone from England and you would say that person is English. You would find someone from France and you would say that person is French. You would find someone from, let's say, Japan, and you would call them Japanese. But we, as a people, were considered by the color of our skin. And to me, that don't add up. Another important factor that I think is relevant to discuss is the fact of the matter that when movies and documentaries are made about us, they never go past slavery, which was around the 1600s. We're going to give you some information on that as well today about the Atlantic slave trade, which was taking place between the 1600s and the mid-1800s. They never give us any movies, any documentaries, anything past the 1600s. They always want us to focus on either the slavery times when we were on the plantations, or they want us to focus on the times of the civil rights when our leaders were getting killed in the streets, waterholed in the streets, lynched, hanged, killed, our churches burned down. So these are the movies that they continue to repeat over and over and over. How many movies have been made by Martin Luther King? Thousands, okay? And it always ends in him getting shot. All of our leaders, all of the movies end in somebody getting shot. Then they're going to go back and redo Roots, and they're going to do all these different things, which makes us think that we were never anything before we became to this country. You even have parts of our community, unfortunately, that even say that they are thankful that we came over here on slave ships because of the fact that we would have never had any opportunity to be great. You're going to learn today that that's absolute garbage. Okay? So, this whole idea is recapturing our identity. Recapturing our identity. So, just as a quick review, on last week, we started with the introduction of discussing in Exodus the 20th chapter, verses 4 through 6, where it tells us in the law that we were never supposed to make a graven image of God or anything on heaven, in heaven, or above heaven, under heaven, or in earth. Now, that's what it told us. But yet, for the last 600 years, since the 1400s, this image that we see, that I'm about to show you here, is what you see in all the churches, in all our homes, in all our Bibles. This is what you see. This image. When you look at the person on the right, if you're on your own time, you can look research. His name is Cesar Borgia. All right? And this is the image of where you get your Jesus Christ. Right? So ever since the 1400s, this image has been taken all over the world and has been shown as the image of Christ. But when we go into Revelations, the first chapter, verses 9 through 18, we see that John describes him as a black man. Okay? So Revelation 1 and 9 and 18 on your own time. Go take a look at that. So we asked the question, and we proposed the question to the people. Why is it that if in Exodus it told us not to make a graven image, and in Revelations a man who walked with Jesus and one of his apostles described him as being black, we always ask the question, who is this guy? Right? And why was this image ever put up? Because of that, along with other different factors, many of our people, the so-called black man, the so-called African American, went away from the Bible and Christianity. So we stressed to you on last week to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We also went into John the 13th chapter, and we discovered that he told us that the way people would know that we were his disciples is that we loved one another as he loved us. We saw the treatment of slavery. We saw the treatment of us in this country by people who claim to be Christians. So we understand that according to Christ's words in Matthew 22, verses 37 through 40, and in John 13, verses 34 through 35, that they did not meet the requirements or the standard of what a follower of Christ was. So we cannot say that following Christ is not of the Father and not for us, because the people who say they were of Christ did not meet the standard. All right? So we have to be mindful of that. We have to keep that in mind. More importantly, the Bible also tells us in Exodus 21st chapter about how you're supposed to do with slaves. It told us that when you had a slave, they were supposed to work for 6 years, and then after that 6 years, you were supposed to let them go. So we see that they were not following the law, and they were not following the standards on which Christ said that we were supposed to be. So therefore, how could we throw the Bible out and say that it had nothing to do with us? Also, finally, in our review, the Bible lets us know in Acts the 13th chapter, verse 1, that when the disciples and the apostles first went to Europe, which was in Antioch, which is modern-day Turkey, in Acts the 13th chapter, verse 1, they called them Niger. Niger, which means black. This is the way it was the disciples and the apostles and the prophets that started the church in the first European church. This is the way they described them, as being black. Also, in Acts the 21st chapter, verse 37 through 39, we see that Paul is mistaken to be an Egyptian. Now, we know with the movie that Moses and Ten Commandments and Charlton Heston and all these different movies that you see on TV and all these different places where you see Caucasian people playing these characters, but we know that is historically false. So, let's do this again. Number one, a man who walked with Christ by name John the Revelator in Revelations 1, verse 9 through 18, described Jesus Christ as looking just like me and my brother right here. Number two, we also discovered that according to Christ's words in Matthew 22, verses 37 through 40, and John 13, verses 34 through 35, that the people who called themselves to be Christians in this nation did not meet that standard. Because if they met the standard of what Christ said a Christian was, there was no way in Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 in the United States Constitution we would have been classified as 3/5 of a man. Right? More importantly, they would have freed their slaves because upon the law, those two commandments to give it in Matthew 22, Christ said held all the law and the prophets, and in Exodus 21, we saw that that was not what they did. Lastly, in Acts 13 chapter, we see that once the gospel actually first reached Europe, the disciples, the prophets, and the leaders were called black. Okay? And Paul, in Acts 21st chapter, verse 37 through 39, was mistaken to be black. Okay? So, if Christ was black, and the disciples that was in Antioch were black, Barnabas and all those, and Paul was black, what does that tell you? Now, we know this is shaking some of you up. We know this is against completely outside of what you have believed.